All right. Hello, 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 and welcome to Analog Conlanging, Episode 2, Take 2, because last week we had a bit of a storm here, and it broke my connection, and I got disconnected. But I'm taking this as an opportunity to review everything and also basically redo everything I did last week because I did not end up happy with it. So we're just going to pretend it never happened and start again from where we left off 3 weeks ago. Yes, 3 weeks ago with Analog Conlangs Part 1. So what we were doing is making an a priori conlang with a goal of demonstrating a priori conlang that is fun and single use. So one thing I never brought up with the first goal is that it's single use and it's not for a particular external purpose. Like I'm not making it for a con world fantasy or sci-fi story where I would want it to be super naturalistic. I'm actually going to lean into the non-naturalistic elements here, I think, today. More so than I even was doing last week, which is why I'm happy to be redoing it. So that's something that I wanted to kind of explain. By what I meant with single use is just like, it's just for its own sake, for the purpose of demonstrating this type of a priori language. This isn't going to cover every kind of a priori language. I'm just doing an example of an a priori language in a journal, and then we'll do an a posteriori language in a journal in a few weeks when this one is finished. The demonstration is finished, at least. I won't be finished with the conlang probably. Might come back and finish it another time. But what I'm going to say, I'm going to sort of give the outline of what today is going to be. I'm going to start by reviewing what we did the first week, because it's been 3 weeks now, and kind of re-explaining what was going on with what I was doing with the syntax. And then I'm going to sort of build on the syntax stuff, because the stuff that I landed on the first week, there's some issues I ended up having with it, and I still kind of have them, but my solution to it last week, I think, was very, it wasn't thinking outside of the box enough, I think. I think I want to lean into some abnormal things that I established here that I tried to almost like back away from last week. I'm going to lean into them instead, and we'll see what that looks like. So I'm going to first explain what we did the first week, then I'll sort of like further explain syntax of what we had going on and like draw it out into other scenarios, so that we can sort of tie the syntax up in a little bow so that this check mark can be real. Instead of this, I added this last week, but I wasn't happy with it, and so the stream got canceled anyway because it got shut down, so we're gonna redo that, and then hopefully get into morphology a little bit more, and hopefully even start some phonology so we can start figuring out what this language might sound like. So that is the hope for today. I'm going to start by going over my sort of order that I'm going in for this a priori language. Every time you're making a language, I would suggest starting with your goals, unless your goal is just to stream of consciousness, like make something aesthetic how it feels to you. Then your goal might to be, you might not need to write goals because your goal is just to do a thing without goals. But usually you're going to start with a goal, and then once you make your goal, then the order that you do the rest of it in, if you're going to do it in order instead of jumping around like a lot of people, including myself, tend to do, is what you're going to want to do is set up an order that will make sense for getting your goal to come about. A lot of conlang guides will sort of have suggested like things you should establish in order, and they can work depending on what your goal is, and sometimes they cannot work, because there is an order that a lot of people, regardless of type of conlang, will often try to follow because it's almost like a convention, and it builds off of sort of like linguistic fundamentals that people typically learn in the order that they learned them. in linguistic education. And so people will then just follow that order for their conlangs, and that's not a bad thing, but sometimes it can make more sense to start with something different and then do it in a different order. So goals first, and then making the order that you want to do them based on what your goals are. And then I figured out sort of the general goals of this conlang, and then some semantic considerations in the conlang. Yeah. Oh yeah. Kawa says, oh yeah, phono tends to almost always be a first for a lot of people. Yeah, because linguists, when they study linguistics, they tend to start with phonology, like learning what phonemes are, and then you build off of that. It's sort of starting with the smallest building blocks of language and then moving outwards. But sometimes it makes more sense to go the other direction. Start with big picture stuff, and then later you'll figure out how it sounds. And that's what I'm doing with this one. The semantic considerations that I came up with had to do with having open parts of speech. At least the words themselves will be able to be different parts of speech. I have some morphological ideas that might kind of like tweak that a little bit, or like indicate that something has become a different part of speech within the word, but it's still the same word. I have an idea about that I hopefully we'll get to if we get to morphology. I talked about physical metaphors for abstract concepts and visually expressible speech that might figure into the orthography later. Once I got those sort of like just very vague, broad, big picture things, I moved on to syntax, and I started with drawing pictures of different scenes happening. And what I had the first week, this is what I ended up with. I had a picture of someone sitting under a tree. And so I had like tree. I asked like, what entities are in this image? And then what is happening in the image? So I was like, the entities are tree and person. And then what's happening is that someone is under the tree. The person is under the tree. So that's the relationship between the person and the tree is under. And then it's a state is what I called it. It's a state of being, as opposed to be, which is a person going under the tree. So there's still a person in a tree and an under sort of relationship, but it's one of motion where the person isn't already under the tree. They are moving themselves towards being under the tree. So that's what I had there. Then with the third image, I had a crow and I had a person, and I drew an arrow, and the idea was that the crow is attacking a person. So I have a crow, a person, and what's happening is an attack. And then the final thing I had was a hare and a tortoise and a carrot, and the tortoise giving the carrot to the hare. And then what I tried to do is figure out which entities, obviously, I want to express are in there. I want them all to be expressed in the language. But then how do I express the relationship that these things have to each other, and what kind of event is happening? And for, I think, crow attacks person, that was maybe the simplest one to figure out, because we had like a crow being the attacker, the person being the victim, and the thing happening was the attack. And after that, we figured out the transfer. We had the tortoise and the hare and the carrot, and the idea was what's happening is a gift is being given. There's gifting happening. And I talked about how different languages approach gift giving in comparison to just simple like someone doing something to someone else, and what role the recipient has versus the gift. And I talked about how languages might have the recipient be treated like it's a separate thing, like a dative object, as opposed to a patient, a direct patient. And others will not do that. They'll have the recipient be the patient, and then they'll have the gift be some other case. I kind of did a secret third thing, I guess, which was I actually made the gift what's happening. I said that the tortoise is carroting the hare. So I made the gift be what's happening, because what's happening is a gift is being given. So the carrot itself is what's happening. It's sort of my solution to this that I don't think most languages would do. Some languages might incorporate the gift into the verb and have like what we'd call an applicative verb, where the some argument in the verb in the verb sort of domain becomes a part of the verb itself. some languages might do that, but I don't know of any languages where you actually have the gift be the verb, at least most of the time. There are some verbs that we have that mean to give that thing to someone. I'm trying to think of an example, but crown. There we go. Crown is one. Although there's some other stuff going on with the word crown, but to crown someone is to give them a crown. But we have some verbs like that in English, and they exist in other languages too. But I don't know of any language where that's always how you express giving things. Would the recipient be the patient in this context or the goal dative? So here's what I want to explain. So what I decided was I was going to have the hare be like a patient, like it's going to be in the same place that the person is in the crow attack. So it is kind of like having what we call a second dative, where the gift is something else and the recipient is the patient. But it's not a second dative because instead of getting a separate case, the caret is the verb. And so I had that situation going on with giving. And what I was struggling with was then getting that system to work for these, what we would typically have be intransitive sentences, trying to express A and B. A and B would both be intransitive, but one involves motion and one involves a state of being. And I had some different solutions for that the first week. My solution for the first week was in A, I was just going to have the person. I guess I should explain this. This is probably going to change with my new ideas. But how I had it was that I start with a verb. I moved the verb around a couple times, but I ended up having the verb at the beginning with like some kind of marker that's the verb, like a particle. I abbreviate with T for tense, aspect, mood, evidentiality, whatever I'm going to end up doing with that is going to be the separator. It might actually just end up being a suffix on the word that fills the verb role. And then I had one argument be a doer or a thing in the verb sort of domain after the verb. So it kind of is like the person's in the agent slot, but since there's only one thing here, it could be the agent or the patient. It's ambiguous because it's intransitive. And then tree is like a modifier on under, because it's like, what kind of under? Well, it's under a tree. But I wasn't super happy with that because I wanted tree to be more like an argument and less like just kind of like a modifier. And I don't know if Kawa was here the first week, but I kind of wanted to do, despite having the verb at the beginning, I did want to have modifier head and have some kind of in like some kind of morpheme that goes into that. And I put a hyphen e hyphen because I was just thinking of izafe and Farsi there because I was like, I kind of want to do something like that. That would be nice aesthetically. So there would be like tree, izafe, reverse izafe, there'd be like tree, izafe, under. But I wasn't happy with that because that just kind of makes tree a modifier, and tree does feel like an argument in this sentence, just like what we would typically have is be like an object of a preposition under, because we'd have a verb getting the state across. But if the state is under, then it needs to be an argument of under and not. I was not happy with it being like this, where it's a modifier of under instead of an argument. But the reason I had to do that is because for B, I had tree be an argument. That R wasn't there the first week. I added that last week. But I had, ignoring the R there, if you can read this, under T, person tree. I had tree be like, almost like a patient here. And then last week I was having issues with that. I didn't like that solution either, because then it seems like the person is undering the tree, or giving under to the tree. If we're going with like that recipient meaning for D, the person isn't giving under the tree, and the person is not undering the tree. They're not putting the tree under something. They're undering themselves. And so my solution to that was to have a reflexive used if there's motion. So you move yourself. So the person is undering themselves, and then tree is some kind of oblique here. And that's what that R was that I came up with last week. So then I had a different issue, which was I still have the issue of tree not being an argument here. And so my solution last week was to have two prepositions. And I'm super unhappy with that. I don't want to have like syntactic prepositions in here. Prepositional relations can be used with content words. I want to do that, but I don't want to have prepositions in this language. That was sort of one of the ideas I was trying to avoid, but I ended up needing it for my solution. And the reason I ended up needing that was because I was kind of leaning away from having D be the interpretation that's used in all these circumstances. If D is true, if D is how we do things, and have the gift be the predicate, basically the head of the predicate, the verb, why not just have that be how the language works? Which isn't how, it's not naturalistic at all. But if we apply the interpretation of D to C, a crow is giving an attack to the person. Like, they're bestowing an attack upon a person. And so that actually changes how I do B and A. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write out B and A again, but then I'm also going to add 3 more scenarios. 2 of them I added last week before my connection died because of the storm, and then a third one I came up with just for this week, just to figure something out. So I'm starting a new set of things here. So we have the A situation, and the A situation has to do with a person being under a tree. I'm going to leave that blank for now. We have the B situation where the person is going under the tree. That's also going to be blank. We have C with the crow and the attack. So the attack is what's happening, and the attack is the gift that's being given from the crow to the person. So I'm going to have attack T, crow, person. D was the gift of the carrot. So the carrot is the gift. Carrot, T, tortoise, hare. Tortoise gives the carrot to the hare. Crow gives the attack to the person. Give, I'm kind of broadening it to be just more like bestow or apply unto. Sort of if you're familiar with Tokipono, the way A can be used sometimes with a predicate. Then I have a E, F, and I have a G scenario. For E, I had a person, I'll show the paper that I used last week. I had a person sleeping here. I had a person and a sleep. And I said that there are 2 entities here, or 2 concepts here I need to get across with this state. There's a person, and then sleep is what's happening, which is a state here. And then I was thinking with my reflexive thing, I could do what some Romance languages do, where if you have like that first solution where you have person with nothing else be the state, and then person with reflexive being putting themselves into that state, like motion, it could be used for sleeping too, where you have like the idea would be like sleep is the verb, person, and then that would be person sleeping, and then sleep is the verb, person reflexive would be the person goes to sleep. They sleep themselves. They give themselves sleep. So that was sort of the idea with that. E was a sleeping situation, and for person sleeping, I'm going to leave that blank for now because there's an idea I have for that. F, I had a picture of a cliff, and then like an ocean at the bottom of the cliff, and then a person falling into the ocean off of the cliff. And so I had person, fall, and motion were my sort of, what's the word? My entities and what's happening. So there's just the entity that's happening is person, or that's there is a person that we're focusing on in the sentence, and then fall is what's happening, and it's motion. So that was the idea there. And then G is a new one I haven't drawn yet, and I might draw it on the back of here. There's a G and an F, actually, that I want to look at and see if they're the same. G and F might end up being the same in this language, and that's fine. But I'm thinking with my current idea that they're not going to be the same. With G, I'm going to have cursed idea, impersonal it that bestows those in transit. I talked about that last week. Yeah, I was thinking of having an impersonal subject for those. We'll see if that's what happens. My idea is kind of related to that. I'm actually toying with a few different options, and that's still one of them. I wasn't happy with that last week. But I might be okay with that this week, but we'll see. I'll show what the different solutions I had were and what my current options are. That is, yeah, an idea. That something bestows sleep unto the person. But the way I'm actually leaning with that visually expressible goal, semantic consideration part of the goal, is actually for there not to be an impersonal it, but because there is something there. And we're just gonna sort of like poetically say that something that is in the scene is giving it to them, but we'll get there. G, I'm gonna draw it now. There's gonna be the sun. Actually, let's make it the moon. I don't want to hurt anyone's eyes. And I say that because it is a waning gibbous moon. I'm going to have a person, and their eyes are going to be directed towards it. They're looking at the insert full moon. Yeah, it's not a full moon. It's a waning gibbous. Anyway, that is an inside joke for anyone who's not aware between Kyle and I. Okay, G is someone looking at the moon. Okay, and then F is going to be very similar. F is going to be a person is standing there. The waning gibbous moon is still there. And they see it, but they're not really paying attention to it. So they're not looking at it. I think G and F are going to be the trickiest ones to express here, but I think I have a way I'm going to do that. So going with this sort of idea of bestowing. So like the person or thing immediately after the verb is what bestows that verb unto what comes after them. My idea number one is Kawa's idea of an impersonal it that bestows the state onto the person. So that would mean I'm not going to write it here because it's just an idea. Maybe I'll write it here because this is a scrap piece of paper that I'm using from last week's stuff that I'm not doing anymore. We could do something like A for the person being under the tree. We could do like under, which is the verb T, and then something person. Oh, hi, big nasty truck, welcome. I'm trying to figure out how to express that someone's under a tree in this conlang. With the idea of giving being central to this language, apparently. That's what it seems to be happening here. My first idea, which I came up with last week before the storm hit, was to have, like Kawa said, an impersonal it come on. So if I want to say a person is under the tree, I'm like, someone gives under to the person, and then tree is like an oblique extra thing of like that's where they're under. So like it gives under to the tree, kind of like when we say it rains. It's like, what's it? Well, it's nothing, but someone's got to be raining. So the idea is like a person is given underness, sort of like a passive verb. And then with B, keeping that idea of the reflexive there happening, where it's like the person gives themselves, so R is just short for reflexive here, I'm just being lazy. Person gives themselves under the tree. The person bestows themself underness. It's like, I'm going to put myself under the tree. Hello, self. Here's some under the tree for you here. That's sort of the idea with B. For motion, you're gifting yourself the new location, would be the idea here. So if you're going to the water, you're giving yourself the water as a gift. Here you go. Self. That would be how we'd express it, at least grammatically. So that's A and B. But I think I don't want an impersonal verb here because of, or not impersonal verb, impersonal subject or agent here, because of my idea of having everything being visually expressible. So what I'm going to think about is the fact that in all of these scenarios, there is something there. that you're, like, if you're drawing the situation, there's going to be more than just these. So here we drew everything. And I was saying the first week, I actually listened back over my recording of week 1, and I did say this at one point, and I kind of let it be a joke almost, or not a joke, but it was just like a momentary consideration, but I should have taken it all the way. I was being a little bit too cowardly and trying to be more naturalistic and less experimental. But one of the things with having an a priori language with no sort of specific goal of use by someone is that you can do very unnaturalistic things and explore them for fun, and that's what I'm doing here. So my joke was, why don't I have it be that the tree gives underness to the person? And I'm thinking now, like, if everything's like a gift, then yeah, the tree, there's something I didn't say here, but it's under from the tree's sort of standpoint, I guess. They're under the tree. But the thing that the tree is giving is shade, right? The tree is providing something in this scenario. So the tree is giving underness or shade to the person. They're the thing that kind of is why the person's under it. Like, I mean, they might have other reasons to be under the tree, but either way, the person is under the tree. The tree is providing the location to be under in the first place. If there were no tree, there'd be no under, at least not under a tree. There would be under something else, like the sky or a cloud or something. So I think I'm going to have the tree be the donor in the scenario for A. And so that still gets across the passiveness or the stativeness of the person. The person's just receiving something. They're not doing anything. It's the tree that's the star of the show, which is what I really was struggling with. My problem with this is I felt like putting tree here was sidelining it in a sentence that seems to be about it. And so why not have it be the agent? From a human language standpoint, you wouldn't normally do that. The tree isn't really actively doing anything. It's just kind of vibing. But in vibing, it is providing a service for the person from their point of view. So A is going to be under, and then my little thing that shows that under is the verb, and then tree, person. And I think B is still going to be B the way it is here. The person isn't giving underness to the tree. They're not doing anything to the tree. They're just moving under it. I like how that, Kawa says, I like how that almost gives the same word order as mod head, but it's behaving very differently here grammatically. Almost, yeah. It's like, do you mean like the tree is almost a modifier to person if they're the head? Is that what you mean, Kawa? I'm not sure. But yeah, for B, I might still do the reflexive thing. So the person bestows underness to themselves in relation to the tree. The tree is not the star of the show in B because the person who's doing the thing, the motion, is the person, not the tree. The tree in A is providing shade. Wait, here? Tree comes after under. Is that what you're talking about? Actually, I made a mistake, and tree comes after. Tree comes after under. Yeah, it comes after the verb because the verb comes first, and then it's the agent, and then the recipient slash patient. Agent and donor and recipient and patient have been kind of merged, and I'm kind of taking that to like an unnaturalistic conclusion, like a logical conclusion, but it's not naturalistic at all. Now for E was the scenario where a person was sleeping, and what I didn't note here, because I was not following sort of my semantic consideration parts of my goals, is there's a third entity here I didn't name. Because I was just thinking, how do you say a person's sleeping? Well, there's a person, and sleeping is what's happening, and it's a state of being. And then you can make it reflexive to make it an action of going to sleep, giving yourself sleep. But I feel like the relationship between this and going to sleep is the same as the relationship between A and B, where being under the tree is giving underness to you, and going under the tree is you're giving yourself underness, and the tree is like an extra thing to show where that is. So if I'm going to do the same thing here, Going to sleep, that's going to be more straightforwardly, it's going to be just like B. So like E, or not E, I guess it would be like E part 2, or like E point 2, which I don't have here because I went straight to F. That would be I gave myself sleep. But for this E, for like the actual E that I've written here, the question is, what is giving the sleep? What is bestowing the sleep? And what I was thinking of last week was like that empty slot where it's like there's some kind of impersonal it that gives you sleep. Like, who gives you sleep? And another option I was thinking is like the Sandman. I don't know, like night gives you sleep. But if we go back to my goals of visually expressible physical metaphors, there's an entity in here that I didn't name, but I did draw. And that's the bed. The bed is giving you sleep. Just like the tree is giving you shade, the bed is providing you a place to sleep. The bed is giving you rest. So the idea is, if you want to say if you want to say you're sleeping, the thing that gives you that sleep is, the idea here would be, it's the surface you sleep upon. So it could be the ground, or it could be the I don't know, a boat, anything. If you're standing, I don't know what you would say if you were sleeping standing up. Your feet, I guess. But this could be a really linguistically weird thing, but the concept of it isn't completely alien. What I'm going to talk about is how certain verbs in languages require certain roles grammatically, and they could be ungrammatical if they're missing. So in English, let's just do English. So if we do English, I can say something like we have like what are called ambitransitive verbs, where they can be transitive or intransitive. Like I can say I read a book, and that's perfectly grammatical. But I can also say I read, and it's perfectly grammatical. Even though, like, what did you read is a question you might have, but this is still considered a grammatically complete sentence. Like, there's nothing ungrammatical about this. It's understandable. The idea is you're saying you read in general, or something like that. But there are other verbs that are mandatorily transitive. Like if I said, what's a good example? I taste the batter. No, let's do like the beverage. I taste the beverage. It's not as grammatical for most speakers. There might be people who have a different sort of idiolect that makes this grammatical, but saying I taste is like ungrammatical. It's like I taste, you need to say what you're tasting. Or if it's a different kind of meaning of taste, like what do you taste like? I taste salty could be something, but you'd have to have some kind of, that would be like more of a copular verb taste rather than a transitive verb taste. I taste, and then what you taste like. But you need something here. This is usually considered ungrammatical because verbs in natural languages tend to have a set of kinds of arguments that you need for the sentence to be understandable. And I taste breaks that rule because there's something you need for taste to make it understandable. It could be as simple as like you need a pronoun to be the thing that you tasted. But what I'm thinking here is that sleep acts like that. Sleep requires grammatically the thing providing you sleep. And so for E, that would be the bed. So just like the tree bestowed underness to the person by providing shade, I'm going to say that sleep is what's happening and the bed is providing it to the person. Kind of like the tree is providing under to the person. And then if I wanted to say a person goes to bed, then it will look more like B, where it will be sleep, then the person provides themselves sleep on the bed if they wanted to include the bed there. The tree almost becomes optional with B, and so does the bed in not E, but like E.2, where it's more active. Kawa said, a cool idea for an evolved language would be making an impersonal it come from this kind of construction, considering how lei became the formal pronoun in Italian because it would refer back to a previous noun. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. If like there was some kind of pronoun that referred back to it, and then that new pronoun becomes the impersonal. In Italian, lei being the formal you, referring back to a noun, is what Kawa is referring to there. So yeah, that would be a cool thing if I made like a descendant of this conlang that used an impersonal for like bed and tree here, and then put tree into the oblique there, or modifying under. I guess it could do both in A and B technically, and E. No, it couldn't do it in E or A, but it could do it in. Well, no, if I put it here, then yeah, they could then. It would be free to have tree be modifying and bed be modifying here, if needed. So, F was about the cliff. Well, it wasn't about the cliff; it was about falling. But once again, kind of like here, I left out some arguments. I left out the cliff and I left out the water. And the question here is how do I want to express the motion when it's not intentional? With B, the motion was intentional. The person was actively moving towards the tree, so having them do it to themselves made sense. But here, I don't think it makes as much sense. The person isn't bestowing falling onto themselves on purpose. It seems kind of weird to say that they're giving themselves a fall. I mean, you could say that. We could have F be like that. We could also say that one of the things I didn't write here is the cliff, and the cliff gave them a fall. If to say they fell off a cliff, you say where they fell off of and what they fell off of. It's almost like you're saying that the cliff pushed them into the water, and then the water could be like an oblique thing. And then I guess similarly, we could, on the other hand, we could do it the other way, and we could say that the ocean gave them a fall because it's providing a place for them to land. So the water gave me a fall, or the water gave the person a fall from the cliff. But for some reason, having the cliff do it makes a little bit more sense to me because of the idea of like the donor. The donor is, we're merging the donor with an agent, but in a sense, the donor is also a little bit of a source of the motion. From, if I give something to you, the thing that's transferred is moving from me to you, so I'm where it comes from. So I am both like the giver and the location it came from, and so maybe having the location you fell from be the one giving you the fall might work if I had F be like that. So I could say F is fall, and then the cliff gave it to the person, and then the C could be like an extra oblique there to the C, just like under. The person gave themselves under in a tree-ish direction, whereas like here it's like in a ocean-ish direction. Now, what I'm struggling a little bit with is if a person did do it like intentionally, like they were like diving into the sea, practicing their high diving, then it would be fall person reflexive. And then C would be like an additional thing. And then if you wanted to say from the cliff, you'd have yet another additional thing. But then figuring out if C or cliff, which one is which there? Is C the place you end up, or is it where you come from? Do you jump from the sea into a cliff? If there's like a, I don't know, huge waterfall on the edge of the sea that lands you on a cliff. I mean, you could use sort of like maybe context to figure that out. I think that's fine. How often does that happen compared to going from a cliff to the sea? Because that's a much more common thing to happen. That could be fine. I'm fine with that. But the other thing I was thinking of potentially is, what if the person is the gift from the cliff to the tree, or to the sea. The cliff gave a person to the sea. That might even be better, although it doesn't get the idea of falling across. I mean, we could, kind of like I was saying in week 1, I don't know, if you weren't here, you missed this, but I was saying maybe you could still have some kind of modifier on carrot if you want to specify that it was a gift and not just a different kind of transfer, like throwing a carrot at someone as opposed to giving it to them. If you needed to make that distinction, you could add more like of a modifier onto carrot. And we could say the same thing here, that like person is the verb, but it could be like falling person was given from the cliff to the sea. That is another solution, and I almost like that better somehow. It kind of, what it does is it kind of makes everything in the picture a potential actor in the sentence. It's almost like bringing the picture to life in a way, which I kind of really like, even though it's very unnaturalistic, I think, to do that all the time. I'm going to do it all the time because I think it's cool. And the best thing about journaling in your, or conlanging in your journal, is it's your conlang and no one can stop you. I mean, you guys can stop me if you all uproariously complain, and I might take a different direction. But for now, I'm actually going to say fall hyphen person is the verb. A person is being given, the cliff is personing, bestowing a person unto the sea. And then you could say, if a person is diving into the sea, the person is bestowing themselves, the cliff self, or their falling self unto the sea. And you might just skip cliff, or make cliff the oblique here. Yeah. I think I should do these 0.2s over here, like E.2, for a person going to sleep. Sleep, person, self, again that's R, and then bed is oblique. Why did I put 2 Ds in bed? It's not Old English. This is not Old English. Bed has 1 D. Modern English. Oops. Okay, and then for F.2, that would be the person bestows themselves into the sea from the cliff. So I could say the person, I could say like fall, again, fall in parentheses, modifying the reflexive pronoun. T, person. I could switch it and have person still be the verb, but have a reflexive be the agent. That's fine too. I think I might do it the other way around, because person might be an easier word to verbify than whatever reflexive pronoun I have. Yeah, I'll do that actually. Reflexive C, and then cliff is extra information of like where it was falling, where are they personing from, from the cliff. Okay, and then G. G was the person looking at the moon, and E was a person seeing the moon. And the relationship between F and G... Wait, why did I write GF? Everyone make fun of me now. I forgot the alphabet. It's H. It's H. It's not F. It's H. What comes after G? New alphabet order just dropped. Thanks, Kawa. F, G, F. It's like I'm writing sheet music or something. I'm just thinking, what note comes after G, F? Just go. It's like a little arpeggio of like G. Okay, so G, the relationship between G and H is kind of the reverse of, or like in terms of the order of like it's like G is to H as B is to A, because G is more active looking at something, whereas H is more passive, like seeing something. And my idea here is something I've done in other conlangs before with sensory verbs, and it's to have the body part, or like the organ that is sensing the thing, be the actor in it instead of the whole person. It's like their eye. In this case, it's like your eye is doing the action or receiving the action, and then the thing you're receiving is light. So my idea in G is that the person is giving themselves the light from the moon, and in H, the moon is giving light to the person's eye. So it would be like, for G, it's kind of weird. I'm going to do H first because that's the order I've been doing all of these in. I should have done these in a different order, but I drew the wrong arrow the first time and I just rolled with it. H, I'm going to say light. I could even just say moonlight, but there is the moon here, and then there's its light, which is coming from it, which the sun's light bouncing off of it. We're not going to draw the sun in this picture. Light, which is the verb, and then it's H, the moon is giving off the light, and the eye is receiving it. Moon, eye. We could say like person modifier eye, like person eye, person's eye, but like context. Moon's, sun's, light. Yeah. Skull emoji. Yep. All right. And then G, it's because the person is being more active about it. Yes, the moon is giving off light, but it's more like the person is like, the moon's light is there, but the person is like taking it for themselves. They're like, hey, light, come here. Like, by directing their attention towards the moon, they're giving it to themselves. They're like, head, here's the moonlight. I don't know if that makes sense, but there's a difference between seeing something and looking at something. That's the idea I'm like getting across here. Like seeing something, it's like, okay, there's something there and you're sensing it, but looking at something is like you're like watching it. You are directing intentionally your attention to it. It's again also the difference between like listening to something versus just hearing it. You can hear something but ignore it, or you could listen to something, direct your auditory attention to it, and that's sort of the difference there that I'm getting across between G and H. Kind of like, it's sort of what I'm saying is that grammatically it's going to work the same as the difference between being somewhere and going there. Being somewhere, you're just kind of there, and the location is providing you that space, like the tree is providing that shade to the person, whereas in B, the person is doing it intentionally. They're granting themselves that location. And within the same light, pun not intended, the person in G is granting themselves the moonlight by paying attention to it, and in H, the person is just there, the moonlight's there, and they're just receiving it passively. That's the idea here. So G will be light, T, and then it's person, or no, not person. It'll be, I think it'll be I again. I, reflexive moon. The eye is granting itself light from the moon versus the moon is granting light to the eye. That's sort of the idea. With all these different kinds of scenarios, we're going to like view them as transfers or like bestowals of the predicate. So with that, the only other syntax thing I was going to think about, or that I did talk about last week, is how I want to do coordination and subordination. I didn't actually talk about subordination last week. What I think I'm going to do with subordination is I'm going to have some kind of morphological thing that shows that something is the verb, actually. That's what I was thinking. And so it'll be clear when there's another verb, and because the sentences start with verbs, that's where the embedded clause will now be, as opposed to a coordination, which will have a coordinating particle. I'm going to have coordinating particles. So I'll explain subordination and coordination briefly, just to make it clear what I'm talking about. Subordination is going to be when you have a situation where you are describing something with what could be another clause. So if I have like, I eat cookies, or let's say I eat the cookies. Let's make them definite. I eat the cookies. So like we have a clause here. We have eat is what's happening. It's the verb. I is in English, it's the subject. It also happens to be the agent semantically. I eat the cookies. So I'm eating cookies. We have an agent, we have a patient, the thing that's eaten is the patient. In this language, we probably say eat is the verb, and then I grant, how would I do this? I think what I would do is I would say I eat cookies would be, consume would be the verb. And then I'd have like, I be the donor. And then cookies would be the patient of consume. So I bestow consumption upon the cookies. Here's my gift to you, cookies. Not existing anymore, except in my stomach. Kind of like the crow was granting an attack unto the person. I'm going to grant eating unto the cookies. Here's my gift to you. It's going into my mouth. That's the idea with eating cookies in this language. Now, subordination, just briefly, it would be like if I were to describe the cookies. Of course, we can describe cookies with adjectives. We could say delicious cookies. We could say chocolate chip cookies. But we could also say the cookies that you made, right? And then you made, that you made, would be an embedded, like subordinated clause. You made cookies is the clause there. It's just cookies is already here, so we're not going to repeat that. The that connects it, so it's like you made that. What did you make? You made cookies. So we have another clause here. And so what I was saying is, since verbs come first, and it's going to be clear what a verb is, I would have like eat. Oh no, I got disconnected again. Great. Okay, I got disconnected. At least OBS is telling me I got disconnected. All right. Can you hear me? If you're in the chat, let me know if you can hear me. OBS said that I got disconnected. Let me say this. It's like red. The wind here is really bad right now. The wind here is very bad right now. Thick disconnect happened, but it seems fine now. Thank you, Kawa. Okay. Thankfully, I've been recording this whole time, so it'll be all smooth on YouTube. What I was going to say is in this language, so it would be like eat, verb, I, cookies. And then we could just follow up cookies. It's a little laggy. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Eat, I, cookies, and then we could just say made tea, you, right? So we could say, like, now it's clear that this is an embedded clause just because it's another verb that's describing cookies. Now, what could be tricky then is if the thing that you, like, you need an embedded clause on this, the subject or, like, the agent, that would be tricky to do. I might need some other strategy. Oh no. Yeah, the connection is still very bad. I'm watching it tell me how many kilobytes per second it's uploading, and it's oscillating between like under 2,000 and like the single digits. So if it's laggy, I understand. I'm so sorry. I don't know. This is about the time it happened last time too. It was like about an hour in. So it might actually be an OBS problem and not even a connection problem, because my connection seems to be fine. Okay, is it opening a browser? Okay, it's not opening a browser thing. I'm going to try to open Twitch right now. Yeah, okay. It's in double digits. Okay, now it's in single digits. Okay, whoa. Now it's 0. Okay. If you're watching this on YouTube, I hope you're having fun watching me panic. Okay, let's see here. If you're still watching, thanks for being a trooper with the problems here. Oh no. Okay. Ooh, it's green again. We're green again. Excellent. Okay. If you can still hear me, let me know. if you are able to access the chat. The connection seems to be green again. I think we just had like a really big gust of wind or something. So the problem is, what if it was like the person you know ate cookies? The like you know would be another embedded clause. So I would need some way to get that across, that like the sentence that you know is like part of that. I think the leg stopped. Okay, thank you. So like let's say that the sentence instead is like the man you know ate cookies instead. So I would say eat tea, man no tea. The question is no. Are you the agent of knowing? You bestow knowledge upon yourself? I don't know. Let's say you. Anyway, that could be something we figure out later. How do I make it clear that cookies then is part of this verb clause and not know? Like, you know cookies is not what you're saying. That's an issue potentially. So we might need a different strategy. One thing some languages do is they'll have their verb be in a different place in subordinate clauses. And I think I might do that. I might actually change the word order and have it be swapped. So it would be like eat verb, I, cookies, you made verb. And I could do the same thing here. And then having that verb at the end shows that the subordinate clause is done, and then we're back to the main clause. So eat, man, you know, cookies. Some languages don't care about that ambiguity. Yeah. Another thing I could do, if I do that, that actually might, speaking of Japanese, that's a good thing to bring up. Thank you, Kawa. If I modify our head and this sentence is a modifier on cookies, then I think the better place to put it would be where it goes in Japanese, which is before. So it would be rather, this would be eat, tea, I, you made verb, cookies. And now having, again, the verb at the end makes it clear that this is a subordinate clause. And then same here with the man that you know, eat tea, you know, verb, man, cookies. And that's a lot less ambiguous, actually. Like, it's still potentially ambiguous, but like having another verb in there is like, makes it a little bit clearer, I think. Although there's a part of me now that's thinking, like, what if I'm subordinating a thing into the whole verb? Like, I know that XYZ. Maybe all the verbs need to go to the end. Maybe I do just make it be Japanese word order just without particles. I don't know if I want that, actually. I don't think I do want to do that. I think I like the verbs at the beginning and just changing the order in subordinate clauses. Like Germanic languages do that. They put, a lot of older Germanic languages at least, will put subordinated verbs into the end of the clause, whereas it'll be V2 in the overall clause, verb second. So yeah, I'm going to have verb first, and then in subordinated clause, it's verb last. Okay. That's okay. So that's subordination. Coordination is more things like things that are on the same level syntactically. And I don't want to have separate coordinators. I think I just want a word for and a word for or. I think I'm happy with those two. And they could be anywhere in the sentence, I think. And I might just hyphenate them if they're arguments and not hyphenate them if it's the whole sentence. Couldn't you just treat subordinates to a verb as an argument of the verb? Yes. Yes. I'm going to do that instead of worrying about the order too much. Because, yeah, a lot of languages don't actually care about the ambiguity. The context makes it clear a lot of the time. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to have these things, what I've established here, that way they wouldn't come before, or at least you wouldn't have to, yeah. So it goes like adverbial modifier, verb, the tame thing, agent donor, patient recipient, oblique. And overall it's like mod head with like a little particle between the mod and the head. Okay. So now I'm going to say that that's all I really want for syntax. That's all I really care about is, I should write that subordinate clauses are a bit different. So I'm going to have coordinators and or. And then for subordinate clauses, it's going to go agent, patient, oblique, potential adverb. The hyphen is just showing like there would be a marker there to show that it's an adverb, and then head, or verb, sorry, verb, tense aspect mood marker. So, okay, and then these are coordinators, and it's super ugly right now, I know. I'm not trying to be super beautiful with this. But we're going to move on to the morphology. I started talking about morphology last week, and I started with like, how do I want this language to be? And yesterday was, or not yesterday, yesterweek, I was leaning on having it be like pretty much completely analytical and isolating. I don't think I'm going to do exactly that. I think I want it to be mostly analytical and isolating, but I think I'm going to do something to signal that what you're dealing with is a verb. And it might even make T like unnecessary. It might be T just might be actually inflection on the verb. But that kind of depends on what my phonology is. But I have an idea. I do have an idea for it. So again, I'm skipping a little bit here. I'm kind of cheating. But just purely, I'm going to say mostly typologically. I'm going to say morpho for morphology. That P is very sorry. I'm going to say mostly analytical and isolating. There might be some kind of internal derivation on verbs. I say derivation and not inflection because you're deriving a verb from a noun, not marking it for anything. I don't think I'm going to do that. I might have T be a suffix, and there'll be two different meanings for T. But again, I'm not certain yet. Not certain yet. So that's my typology. And the kinds of words I'm going to have are content words and particles. And my particles are just going to be grammatical particles. They're going to be and or. I think those are going to be my only ones for now. And I guess you could analyze the little connector, mod head connector, as a particle. That particle will be a thing. But the content words are going to correspond to like the parts of speech basically that we're mostly dealing with, which is like the argument, the predicate, and any modifiers, adjectives, or adverbs. And then for arguments, we'll also have pronouns that can replace them. And I'm thinking we're going to end up with 5 pronouns, or 6. No, I'm going with 6. I'm going to say 6. I'm going to keep the ones that I had last time. So I guess we could also say that there's going to be some kind of inflection. Or not inflection. I guess you can call it inflection. What I want is I want there to be possessive suffixes. And I realized that when I was looking at what I did last week and was unhappy with the way that I ended up doing possession. I did not like it. So I'm going to have possessive suffixes in addition to the pronoun. So each pronoun is also going to have a suffix form of it that you can use to describe something with, that you can use as a possessive adjective. So if you want to say like my tortoise, you could put some kind of inflection on tortoise. I keep saying suffix. I might have them be prefixes instead, actually, because it's modifier head. I might have them come from just having the pronoun there. So it might be a prefix instead of a suffix. I don't do a whole lot of prefixes in my languages usually, so I'm actually kind of excited for prefixed pronouns. Or possessive adjectives, I mean. I think I might be getting laggy again. I say that because the connection on OBS is changing color again from green to like yellow and red. So just let me know if you're in the chat if it's getting bad again. But yeah, so I'm going to have some kind of possessive prefixes. And T might be... I was saying T might be obsolete, but I might also use suffixes for T to show what kind of tame tense aspect mood evidentiality I have. And my idea, let's get into this morphology here. Let's get into verb morphology. A bit of lagginess, but it's very clear for the most part. Thank you, Kawa. Okay. My idea, T suff. I don't know why there's a huge space there. My idea for this aspect of the morphology, I was thinking for tense aspect mood evidentiality, I was just going to copy what I've done in some other conlangs and what Kawa is aware of this. Kawa in the chat here. We have a group conlang that has these 3 evidentiality markings on them. I don't want tense in this language though, but I was going to do like evidentiality and modality kind of at the same time, epistemic or deontic modality versus not. I was just going to do like basically a simple realis irrealis verb situation and then realis broken into witness and non-witness evidentiality. That's kind of what I was going to do. So there were going to be 3 different suffixes on verbs T here is going to be suffixes on the verb, basically, is what I'm saying. There are going to be 3 T's, and none of them are actually T. None of them are tense. They're mood evidentiality, so they're me. Yeah, I really love that system. Yeah, and the more we've used it in Kawa the more we've used it in the group language, the more intuitive it becomes for myself too, using witness, non-witness, and then irrealis. So yeah, so verb suffixes, I'll have something for realis, and realis means realis witness. Yeah, realis witness. So realis means that it is there's a, I've explained this so many times in stream that I don't have the words today. It is something that you're saying is a thing that happens, or you're asking if it's happening for real. Hence realis. It's not hypothetical exactly. You can use it for hypotheticals that are like roundabout, but it's more like this thing is happening, or you could ask, is this thing happening? And witness evidentiality just means that you have first-hand evidence of it. Like, you saw it, you heard it yourself in some way, or it's self-evident that it's the case. There's no sort of like epistemic doubt about it happening. Would it be apt to describe realis almost like an indicative? Yes, a lot of the time. Indicative is like usually the realis mood that you have. Sometimes languages will separate out other kinds of realis moods, but indicative is like the textbook realis mood to have. You're indicating something or asking if something is the case for real. And then we'd have another suffix for still realis, but non-witness. And non-witness is just, you don't have that same kind of first-hand evidence. You are like pretty sure it's the case, so it's still realis. You're like saying, yeah, this is the case as far as I know, but I don't have any first-hand evidence. It's not self-evident, and I don't have first-hand evidence. I'm conjecturing it, or like just kind of inferring it, or I have secondary evidence, like someone told me, I heard about it. It's like hearsay is a kind of non-witness evidence. Sometimes it's categorized that way, at least. So it's like I heard about it, or I'm assuming it, or inferring it. I don't have the evidence before me myself. And then the third suffix will just be irrealis, anything that's not a real thing that's happening. So a lot of moods would fall under that, like imperatives, subjunctives, optatives. So that would be things like commands are irrealis because they're not happening. You want them to happen. Optative, similarly, you want it to happen. You're wishing for it. It may happen. It potentially could be the case, but it's not for sure. So these would be like different levels of like things that we could add to these sentences. So there's like, if I do under, and then under is marked for realis witness, tree person, it's like the person, tree bestows under to the person. It's happening for real, and I know it's happening because I saw it happen or heard it happen directly, or it's self-evident because I see it. I mean, that would be it. You saw it, right? But then I could say, like, irrealis, I could say the person might be under the tree, like the tree might bestow underness to the person, and then I could also do realis, not witness. Like, as far as I know, as far as I can tell or have heard, the person is under the tree, but my information might be faulty, or it's just hearsay. I just heard a rumor that the person's under the tree, or I'm inferring that the person's under the tree, but I don't have direct evidence. That would be what not realis non-witness would be there. So those would be my three suffixes. So instead of t being a separate particle, it would just be a suffix on the verb. I might end up changing these back to particles, and that's fine. I still haven't made the phonology yet, so that choice hasn't been made. Now, I also want to put the pronouns here, and I want 6 pronouns. And what I want to do is I want to do a first person exclusive, a first person inclusive, a second person, and I want a demonstrative that doubles as the third person, and then I want an interrogative that might also double as an impersonal or quantitator pronoun. And then for each of these, there'll be a pronoun, like that's an actual content word, and then there will also be a prefix, potentially, that will indicate possession. And I think that would only exist for wait, that's not 6, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I forgot the reflexive. Darn it. I was gonna say I'm missing something here. Reflexive, clown. Okay, my whiteout is breaking. It's getting unthreaded from the thing. There we go. So I want a reflexive to come after D. Okay. Demonstrative / third person, R for reflexive, and then Q for interrogative. And I would only have prefixes for first person exclusive, first person inclusive, second person demonstrative, this would be like a third person possessive. Non-prefix would be not possessive. And then reflexive prefix as well would be nice. I don't think I want a possessive interrogative. Like, which one's tortoise? Whose? I guess it could be like whose tortoise would be the possessive there. I guess maybe I should have a possessive for all of them. Why not? Whose tortoise? That works. Okay, so this would be PSS possessive. I said POSS here and then PSS here. It's fine. It's fine. So those are my ideas for what pronouns I want to have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. These lines end up way bigger than these ones. I don't even know why I'm writing underlines. It's a book with dots. I'm fine. So that's where my pronouns are going to be. So I'm trying to think of any other morphological stuff. So I wanted to do something with making verbs from not like just, there's like going to be the base root, and you turn that into a verb with some kind of morphophonological thing. But that is morphology, but it's morphophonology. So I need a phonology, don't I? I'm going to leave this dot in here and then move on to phonology, and then I can cross that off when that's done. Because then I can come back and give phonological realizations for all of these slots. Phonology. Let's go to the next page. Phono. So let me go back to my goals. It's got to be fun. Single use. Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to think if there's anything here that's going to guide my phonology choices. Well, I already have some ideas in my head, but I'll just actually get into them. So I actually, before I get into what phonemes I have, I actually want to think about the phonotactics first. I think I want to have roots be like roots for content words to be at minimum CVCV or something like that. 2 syllables, or maybe like 1 really heavy syllable or something. Just to differentiate it from the actually maybe it's fine if it's not differentiated from the particles. These could be long if I wanted them to be. That's fine. Actually, yeah, scratch that. But one thing I do want is I want there to be a key syllable in a content word that I can pinpoint to be the thing that I use to express that it's a verb. So there needs to be like some kind of fixed thing that's always there in a content word so that I can verbify it. And what I was thinking is I think I want to have some kind of vowel breaking indicate that something's a verb instead of a content word that's like a modifier or a noun. So my idea is you have like most of your word, and then maybe it's like the anti-penultimate, or no, the penultimate syllable, the vowel breaks if it's a verb. So I guess I should maybe explain vowel breaking real quick. I'm going to use, let's use Spanish, I guess, is the easiest thing to do. You can have a verb like, so a thing that happens, actually I'll use Italian, why not? What's a good example word? I'm so bad at coming up with examples. This is my constant dilemma. I'll just use Spanish. I have an idea for that one. So like, it's usually a phonologically motivated thing, and not a morphologically motivated one, but it has consequences for the morphology. You could have a Latin word like sorting, which, yeah, sorting, which means like luck, chance, and that kind of thing. And then this is just a nasalized E that goes away, so it just becomes like this. And this is how you get the spelling of what exists in Portuguese, sorte, which is luck in Portuguese, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Sorte is luck or chance. But in Spanish, what happens is, because this is a short O in a stressed syllable, what happens is that O breaks and turns into suerte, and that's how you say luck in Spanish. So that's vowel breaking. So you have one vowel, and because it's under a stressed situation, it splits into two. And this happens in Spanish and French and some places in Italian and some other Romance languages, though it doesn't happen in all of them. For example, it doesn't happen here in Portuguese. It kind of stops there and it doesn't break. But what I'm thinking is, I'll have in verbs, the vowel will break, but I have to pick a syllable for that to happen in. So that would be the stress syllable. Unrelated, but I love Portuguese T to chi, where they still write it chi, yeah, with T. Yeah. That was more like a Brazilian Portuguese pronunciation, I think. I don't know if it's cheese in Europe. I think it might be sorte, but I don't speak European Portuguese, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, so I'm thinking I want to do some kind of vowel breaking only in verbs. So my idea is it would have like maybe a prosodic stress that only that word got, that would cause it to break there but nowhere else. And I'm thinking I kind of want penultimate stress in this language, like second to last syllable. And I think I need content words to end with vowels so that I could put those verbal suffixes onto them. Unless I make them prefixes or particles, in which case it's fine. Or I could have the suffixes have an inherent vowel, and so it's fine for them to end with consonants too. I have lots of options, but I kind of like the idea of having, like, again, I'll do it on my scrap piece of paper here, like having, like, syllable, like maybe syllables before it, but then like a syllable that will break as a verb with like a consonant here, or maybe it could be hiatus if a consonant disappeared, and then like a vowel here, and then I could just like attach one of three consonants to it for the tense aspect mood. Well, it's mood and evidentiality thing here, so it would be like, these could just be like a single consonant, and then this could be, and then it could be like that consonant could go here. So like different vowels. And I was thinking maybe having the different vowels at the end of the word be almost like word classes. Like maybe denoting some kind of, I flirted a little bit with the idea of like a animacy hierarchy. That's not happening in this language anymore given how the syntax works at all. But having something like what kind of thing it is, if it's like an environmental word, like if it's referring to like a tree or the cliff or the sea, like in those examples, or the bed, it's part of the environment of the room, or if it's like the person or the crow from those examples, or the tortoise or the hare. And I could have different subcategories or just a few. My idea for the vowel system, I had two different ideas. One of them actually involved having a whole like chronology for the language where it changed over time, and my idea was it was going to be a 6 vowel system that got reduced to a 5 vowel system or a 4 vowel system. My other idea was to have a 4 vowel system from the get-go, and I'm not sure which one I want, but I think I might just go with the 4 vowel system to begin with and do the vowel breaking with that. How I'm going to do the vowel breaking, though, is what I'm trying to still figure out with that. So my ideas for the phono, given all those thoughts in my head's swirling around, I think what I want is to have the phonotactics be something like, I'll put phonotactics and prosody together. Phonotactics being the like structure that words are allowed to have in terms of what can go with each other, and prosody being where like things like stress and accent go. I don't think that this language is going to be tonal because I'm a coward and I'm bad at tones. I don't want to make a fool of myself mispronouncing my own language, so I'm not going to try to do tones. I'm sorry, it's a weakness I have. I'm not going to do a tonal language here. What I am thinking of doing is having content words be like, ooh, I just had a wild thought. Ooh, that's... No, I shan't. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to voice that thought. I was just thinking of something that would make this very complicated. I'm not going to do it. I'm thinking optional onset consonant, vowel, and there would be 4 diphthongs in the language, I guess. 4 diphthongs if there's 4 vowels. I'll show you why in a second. Consonant vowel was potentially a diphthong. I might try to avoid diphthongs outside of verbs, actually. They're like prosodic allophones of just monophthongs. So like the diphthong that comes out of breaking, it would be like saying that in the language, this is actually not a diphthong. If this is not the case in Spanish, but imagine if this didn't contrast with an existing words that had we in them, if this was like an allophone of o somehow, that would be like what I would be doing. So like I'd have diphthongs, but like I wouldn't have them actually inherently in words. They would just be allophones of the monophthongs in the stressed verb situation, the prosodic stressed allophone. Very strange, but again, I'm not being super naturalistic here. I might allow hiatus, but with the diphthongs it might get tricky. I think what I might do is allow hiatus, but orthographically I might use some kind of like silent consonant. I might have like a silent H. I might pull a romance and do a silent H for a hiatus situation, so you can still visually see that it's a different syllable. Oh, only open syllables, very Polynesian and Bantu coded. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe only open syllables. Because I was also thinking I kind of don't want semivowels. I usually have some kind of semivowels in my conlang, so it might be fun to like do something different and have a situation where all the semivowels have become fricatives or something phonemically, or like just phonetically. So like I'm just going to analyze them as semivowels. So I'm thinking consonant vowel, maybe consonant, but like if you don't have a consonant here, there needs to be like a silent H or something. And then vowel for your content words have to be at least this, and there could be more before. But I'm thinking if there's more before, if my stress is here, I'll put accent there for stress. If my stress is here on the penultimate, then I'm thinking I might only allow one anti-penultimate. Latin with y to j and w to v. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I'll only allow one syllable prior and have a thing where like the vowel is reduced, and so you could like phonetically end up with like consonant clusters here only at the beginning of words, because there's like technically a vowel here, but it's like a reduced vowel, like some Austronesian languages do, where they'll have like almost like a half syllable here, like a semi-syllable. That's the idea there. One syllable that goes before, but my syllables are CV basically then. And then there could be a consonant here, but like the situation is there'd be a consonant here if it's a verb, and this is like the tam suffix. Or I guess not the tam, the mood evidentiality suffix. And then there could be a further syllable before, but that would be a possessive prefix. And those I think would need a vowel after them just in case your word starts with a consonant. And then if it's a vowel, there could be elision. That would be kind of cool. Yeah. Okay, so my 4-vowel system I was thinking of is something like this. I, E, O, A. And this is more like a back A, but it could be A too. That was the 4-vowel system I was imagining. And then I need a breaking scenario, since it could be any of the 4 that go here. I need a breaking scenario for each one of these. So my idea is for the high vowels, E and O. I mean, O is not high, but it's high for this system. I was thinking of doing having a thing where the high vowels breaking becomes like my favorite 4-vowel system. Yeah, it's fun. A high vowel breaking basically breaks into its lower counterpart followed by itself. And then a low vowel breaking is its higher counterpart followed by itself. So E breaks to A, and O breaks to AU, and then E breaks to Ye, and A breaks to O. Something like that. So let's say I made a word like, let's say I do something like simple like mito. And I wanted to make whatever mito is into the verb, it would become meito. Meito. And then if I had like a word like urunaki, or something like that. Urunaki, because I have penultimate stress of urunaki. I'll put hashtags here. The hashtags show word boundaries. Urunaki, it would become like runwaki. So runaki, runwaki. And then if it were runoki, it would become runaoki. Oh, sorry, whoa. Thanks for catching the U there. Ronaki. Thank you. I was gonna say, wait. Good catch, Kawa. It was, yeah, that should be oh, there is no U in this language. Cool. That's sort of my idea. I don't know how I feel. I might do it the other way around and swap them. But I kind of like it. I like they're almost like falling diphthongs. If I'm treating the closed ones more like semi-vowels, it's sort of like there's falling diphthongs for the lower ones and rising diphthongs for the higher ones, which is kind of cool. Mito, meito. Ronaki, ronwaki. Yeah. Something like that. And then for consonants, what is it for consonants? is something I usually don't have be the phonemic situation, but I'm gonna do it this time. I'm gonna have I think I'm gonna have a system like this. So it's gonna go, I'm gonna go from front of the mouth to back of the mouth like I usually do, what most linguists do. I'm gonna have stops at the top, so I'm gonna go B. I don't want P, but I think I do want T and D. I think I want K. Unless you're linguist in ancient India, that is so true, yeah. Or if you are an Elvish linguist, then you start with coronals and then go forward in the mouth and then go back in the mouth, because that's the way that the letters look. Which I do not know why Tolkien did that. It's like, let's do the alveolar series and then do the labial series and then do the palatal series and then the velar series. That's so weird. Anyways, B, T, D, K. So, I don't want P, I think is the thing, and I also don't want G as a stop, because I think G is going to be a semivowel. But what idea, or not semivowel, Tolkien really said coronal superiority. I think it's just because they're, I think, more common phonologically, he made them the simpler characters. And so, like, this is totally a tangent. Like, T is this, and then P is this with the like closure, and then this is like in like the very beginning of Tengwar, this was like a palatal stop, like this in IPA, like a C, okay, and then this was a velar stop, which seems so backwards. It's like T, P, C, K. That makes sense. Most conlangs I see and the most that I make will have most of the consonants the coronal region, or at least that region will be the fullest one. Yeah, that, because like cross-linguistically, the coronal series tends to be the biggest, most full one, because like the length of your tongue, like it just like that's where your tongue will often want to be. Some people will rest their tongue on their alveolar ridge anyway. Not everyone will, but because like most people's tongue is about as long as it is to like sort of comfortably be at your alveolar ridge, like a lot of letters tend to be there. Sticking your tongue out for phonemes is less common because you have to extend your tongue. But I am going to do that in this language, because I think what I'm going to do, usually if I have like one sort of series for fricatives, I usually have it be the voiceless ones, and they might have voiced allophones. I think I'm going to have just voiced phoneme, fricative phonemes. So how that's going to look is it's going to be like, we need a linguolabial consonant. Should I have a linguolabial in this? I've never actually put a linguolabial in a conlang before. I know that's a /J, but maybe I'll go outside the box. Could be interesting. How do I want to write it? Do I actually want to use like the DB ligature that looks very funny? Capital butterfly with a broken wing. I don't know. Backwards D, forward B. It looks very vulgar, yeah. We're not gonna do that. Write it like that every time. DB at the same time. No. No lingual labial in this one. Maybe another time. But yeah, I was going to have voiced slightly off fricative. So like, it would be like the, and I was thinking and I just spelled that with a G, I think. This will be spelled with eth because I have D taken already. And then I think for nasals, I might just have two. I might just have M and N. And then I want R. I think I want R, like a trill, alveolar trill. Yes. I think I'm happy with that. Yes, okay, let's do the orthography now. It's gonna go M, N, B, T, D, K, B, T, D, K, stop series, beloved, yeah. Yeah, the beloved, top tier, yeah. Who needs P and who needs G as plosives, right? I actually did think about doing something silly and also having F as my only voiceless fricative. But I'm not going to do that. I was almost thinking of like having it spelled with P but pronounced like F. Or like spell it PH for extra pointlessness. But I'm not going to do that. And then it's going to go V. Eth is my only special character. In this very minimal conlang, I'm still going to have a special character with Eth. I guess I could spell it with Z. Fiji coded. Yeah. I could spell it with Z if I wanted to have the spell Z. Z is available to me. Don't know how much I love it, but So I'm just counting. I guess, yeah, that's how I'm doing it. Wait, I'm wrong. It's Maori. Oh, Maori does WH for like a bilabial fricative. I think it's a bilabial fricative and not just F. I might be wrong. WH, yeah. Yeah, so those are my consonants. So this actually gives me a lot more to work with than I thought it would, because I could have trisyllabic words like ronaki with this. Now what I want to do it is just F. It is just a lingual, or what's the word? Labiodental is the word. I forgot the word labiodental for a second. Yeah, okay. Actually, what if I did do F? What if I did do F and didn't have B? You're wrong again. It is the bilabial one. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought it was this. What if I did FV? And the reason for the asymmetry is it used to be PV, like it's KG kind of here, K velar fricative, but then it went from P to F, and so you have like F as like a standout. Like even F could still be kind of considered part of the stop series or something. Maybe I do that with T and S too. Or maybe T sounds like S before I. That could be cute. And that would be extra cute because it would stop sounding like S when it's turned into a vowel here, and it would start sounding like S where it didn't when it turns into a verb here. That could be cool. Allophony. Okay, I think I want that allophony. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do T to S before I. Adding some Quebecois flavor. That's my suggestion. I'm just now reading what you wrote, and I already am doing it. But it's not S. It's just a straight up S, because I don't have S as a phoneme in this language. T becomes S before I, allophonically. So if you had so here's the fun thing with this morphophonology here. You could have a verb like, let's do like sequel, but then like teme. And so if tico becomes a verb, well, this will be sequel. I'm going to spell it down here. Sequel would become teiko. Sequel to teiko. But then here we have teme, and then when it becomes a verb, it becomes sieme. So the vowel breaking actually interacts with this S thing by either un-essifying the T or essifying a non-ST. I think that's fun. Fun allophony there. Yeah. I wonder if I want to actually spell the difference or leave it. I might just leave it. Wait, you would have to decide whether vowel breaking comes before or after the consonant allophony, right? Yeah, you would have to decide that. I'm going to say it happens after so that this is the case. Because I don't want to have, because what that would do is that would make S a phoneme at that point. If it happened before. If the breaking happened after, then you'd have seiko here. Yeah, if you had the breaking happening after the allophony, so like the breaking happens first things break, then T becomes S, and it only becomes S in the circumstances where it's broken, because that's where I is. So if we're ordering it, it would be like 1, 2. Because if it went the other way around, T would become S in this word but not this word, and it would stay T. It would stay S here, and it would stay T here. It would be seiko and tieme, and it would no longer be an allophone. It would be a phoneme. Because you would have se versus si, with no. It's not really complementary distribution there. Se versus si. Yeah. So I was saying the breaking happens first. The breaking happens like a long time ago, and then this is like a modern allomorphy or allophony that happens like now, historically. I think I'm gonna keep it T then, because it's still the phoneme is T. And I'm just gonna have to remember that this is sequel and this is sieme. I kind of like that. Because it's kind of like Frenchy to me, almost a little bit, like how TI, when there's another vowel after it. I'm Quebecois aside. In French in general, T vowel followed by another vowel, TI followed by another vowel, becomes SI. Like Sion, all of those Sion words. Not all the time. Like you have tien, which does not have that happen. But like in the non-root syllables, like you have like nationality words, like or adjectives that are like sien, Tien. That's kind of what happens in French in general. So it won't be a hard rule for me to internalize in this language. So what I can do now that I have this phonology, I'm going to do two things. Thing number one is I'm going to assign these vowel endings to words as classes. I'm going to basically, I have 4 classes of content words now. Some places where Spanish gets its same place where Spanish gets its and it right. Yeah, the C in Spanish and the Z in Italian coming from a similar source of like TI most of the time. It's not part of my phonology. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna put F in the stop series technically, even though it's not. It's not a stop. I'll say it like it's a recent development that it's not a stop. Like we can say F, the F thing is here, P to F, but it was always unconditionally, so I'm going to spell it with F. But it's illegible, but that's okay. When we're done with the creation of this language in our journal, we'll write a nicer version with the language presented in the journal. Okay, so I'm going to assign word classes. I guess word classes is the thing I now have in my phonology too. So what are my word classes? I need 4. I need to divide everything in the universe into 4 things. Go. Water, earth, fire, air. No. Ancient Greeks couldn't even do that because everything's like a mix of those 4 things. You can't just say everything is one of those 4 things. Big, small, average, good. Personality. Sorry. Okay, no. Big, small, average, good. Personality. Okay, those are the those are the categories. It took me a second to get what you meant there. So I'm thinking, what if it's I might end up with a situation where like one of these 4 things tends to be a verb more often. Or maybe not. I think I might do being, environment, relationship, and secret 4th thing. Other. I don't know. For being, I was thinking like any of these entities that are doing these verbs, like tree, or like, yeah, tree, person, or maybe tree would be under environment. I'm iffy on tree being thing. So like maybe cliff and sea and tree would be environment. Person and crow and tortoise and hare would be beings. Bed might be environment. And then relationship might be like relationship / state might be like under, sleep, fall, tree, or not tree, attack, being like a relationship between 2 things, conflict. And then light would be environment as well, I guess. And then I guess would be being, because like it's part of being. Or maybe I is one of those things that falls under the secret 4th category of like part of something, maybe part or piece of something, part of a larger whole. And then you could get some cool derivation there. Maybe you have like a word for a part of a larger whole and then like change it to a different category to be that whole thing. Maybe. It could be like peace, whole being, environment, and like relationship slash action. So like attack and sleep, and under what I'll be relationship slash action, and then I would be peace part, tree, cliff, sea, moon would be environment. Maybe light would also be environment, and then person, crow, tortoise, hare would be being, whole being. I have to head out. Thank you for the clanging stream. Oh yeah, thank you, Kawa, for being here and for giving your suggestions and comments. I really appreciate it. It's helped a lot. Yeah, I think, okay, categories. E, A, O, A. Okay. Whoa, that is invisible. Okay. Tiny, tiny, tiny thing. Maybe, yeah, I'm thinking sound symbolism right now. For E, I might be part of something. I might do like, I could do it differently. I could do like individual, collective, group. And then I could do like, yeah, individual, collective, group. Yeah, individual, collective, group. Environment or location, and then like relationship type thing. And that might also help with the interpretation too then of like relationships between things in the sentences, to make it clear like one of these things is like the event that's happening or something. Concept. It could be more like, okay, individual actor, individual part of the environment, collective actors, concepts, states of being, or relationships. Maybe part of the environment, individual part of the environment, and individual being shouldn't be differentiated. Maybe it should be like, maybe tree and person should be in the same category. If it could equally bestow something, maybe it should be in the same category. Maybe it should be like individual, collective, group. I don't know, collective. Okay, what I'm going to do instead of like just staring at this and hoping something will come to me is I'm going to get highlighters. And I'm going to put these into 4 categories that I want them to be together. Like words that I want to be in the same category. And I have 4 highlighters here. So that might be helpful. And I think the thing I'm most clear about is I want that the like concepts, I think I want like things like states of being, things you could do from one person or thing to another, and relative locations are all kind of in the same category of like, I don't know, same category of word. I'm also thinking I might want to go back to what I was doing before here and not have person be the verb, because the cliff is bestowing a person to the sea. But I think I do like fall being the verb here instead of person. And I think I would want to go back to having the cliff bestowing falling onto the person into the sea. And here the person bestowing the fall to themselves from the cliff potentially to the sea. So I'm going to redo F, I think. Actually, I have to redo that now. I'm going to label the words, don't I? Like this makes sense to me, but I was thinking through it further of like, if this is my system, I don't want to end up with a situation where I have to have a first person pronoun or like some kind of pronoun be the verb. Because let's say like yourself is the person. So like you have the reflexive be here, but then instead of person, it would be like me. I me myself unto the sea. Which like that's happening, but like grammatically that's going to be annoying, I think, for me. So I'm just not going to do it. It's my calling. Let's do it. Let's do what will make me happy. Because fun was one of the goals. And that doesn't sound fun. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say fall is what's happening. The cliff bestows it onto the person. And then sea is extra. Now, in F2, cliff fall happens. So cliff can be extra, potentially. Cliff fall. Person onto themselves. And then sea, again, is optional as well. So cliff and sea are optional in the second place. Kind of like tree is technically optional here. This is just like the person bestows under themselves. The person goes under. And by the way, it's a tree. Versus here, the tree is giving shade to the person. The tree is not optional there. And same here. The cliff is making you fall. Like, it's the source of your fall. Not really the cause of your fall exactly, but it's bestowing a fall onto you. And then here, you're giving a fall to yourself. The cliff is extra information of where you fell from. The sea is extra information where you end up, just like it is here as an oblique. It's an oblique here too. Okay. Sorry, it's annoying me. I can't wait to read this all nice. Now that I have all my entities, okay, and arguments and stuff. Okay, so fall, okay. Those are going to be concepts, I'm thinking. Sleep. It's going to be like abstract concept, or not abstract concept, but like conceptual relationship or movement. Attack. I think under. Gift. If I put gift in parentheses here, then that would be this. But I don't think light is going to be. Okay, so that's one color. Now, I definitely think I want person, crow, tortoise, hare. I guess self too. As part all of the same thing. I forgot to highlight sleep over here. Gray. Okay. Now for the question becomes, what do I do with tree and cliff and bed and moon, and what do I do with eye? And which of those go with red, if any, or which of them go with one of these two, and what would these two be? What would the distinction between them be? So one option that I have thought is that tree could be tree, cliff, and moon could go in one, and sea and moon would be purple, and then maybe bed as well, and the category would be sort of like element of the environment, part of the scene that is not one of these sort of more typically agent holding actors, people and animals. Maybe weather could be more red, but like maybe weather could be purple, and so we'd have a purple category of like tree, bed, cliff, sea, moon, and then the blue category would be eye. It's like a part of something, a piece of something, instead of the whole. Another option I've thought of is having eye also be red. Okay, eye would be red, because it's a part of the person. Maybe eye would be red here and here, and then we have one color for everything else, and then we have blue. And what's blue for? What is that vowel gonna do at the end of a word? That's the question I then have of like, what other category is there? Or maybe there's one vowel that's only used in particles. like the what do you call it? The coordinating particles, maybe the modifier thing that we were gonna have in between this guy, and it doesn't show up at the end of a word. Otherwise, maybe it could just be in pronouns, and pronouns aren't going to be read. Or alternatively, we have I be a separate category of piece, but tree and cliff and bed and sea and moon and light are also read. Because they're all doing things in the sentence. I guess light isn't doing something, but it is something in the sentence. It's not quite the same as falling, I guess is the idea. Because they're bestowing light. It's more like carrot in that it's something being bestowed and not necessarily a situation being bestowed, but like an actual thing being bestowed. I guess that's the difference between D, G, and H, and then all the other ones. Or I don't do any of this and have it all be random and not matter. That's another option. But I think that the potential for derivation is kind of cool here. Do I want to do categories or not? I could just have two categories, maybe. Maybe I have two categories and then I have a little bit of freedom between the two categories. Like maybe E and O could be the ending for like red ones. I have the option, and then like A and A are the different options for like gray here. So everything that's not gray would be red then, which would be most things, I guess. That could be cool. And then I have a little bit more freedom. Or it could be the other way around. Maybe it's like E and A are one and O and R are the other. I kind of, for whatever reason, I can't explain why, I like the idea of A and A being the endings for like these relationship words. I like them ending with lower vowels, and E and O being like individual arguments in the sentence. I kind of like that. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do this differently. And then I can choose what sounds nicer, like phonesthetically for each individual, if I like a back vowel or front vowel better. But whether it's high or low is not up to me. It's up to the meaning of the word. So it's like, I'll say entities, and I'll say relations / actions. So like sleep would be either ending in A or A. Carrot and tree, etc. would be like either E or O. Bed, all of these would be either E or O. And I'm thinking they can have some allophony variation, or not allophonic, free variation with the pronunciation, where it's like maybe they don't have to be so tense. I mean, O is already not as tense because it's a mid-vowel phonetically, but I'm thinking E could be more like E even, and A is more like A. I'm just writing it with E because that's easier. But yeah, I'm thinking more like E/E, U/O, O, S/A, and then a to ah. There, a to ah. Something like that. Even like schwa maybe could fit in with a. So those are my actual 4 vowel ranges. Just to give myself some wiggle room for how I pronounce these. So back here, I'm going to highlight in purple what needs to be given a phonologic realization. In my morphology, I need a U, and I need a U, 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 and I need U, 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 and then I need the prefix version. U, 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 U. Okay, so I'm going to start with what are my relation words here. These are, I guess, for particles, I'm not going to worry about this because this is like content words. Content classes, I guess. Okay, so for these, it could be anything really. I just, I like them to be short. Oh, and orthographically, I was going to have H for hiatus. And maybe for like vowel initial words, they could also begin with H if I want them to. Or an H shows up if like the word prior ends with a vowel or something orthographically. I guess I'll put a check mark here. Morphology is almost done. And orthography, I guess, has been somewhat started, right? Because at least I have the orthography of the romanization. Okay. Final thing, I guess, is to give these realizations. And I think I'll do that between this time and next time, because we are 13 minutes, or not 13 minutes, 11 minutes over time. So I'm going to end there for now. I'm much happier with the syntax. I'm pretty interested in this phonology. It's a weird phonology, but it exists. I'll try to rewrite it nicer for next time. And then I will give these realizations between now and next time, and we will do then some actual assigning of words, and we'll look at how the sentences sound. Oh wait, actually one final thing. I do think I know what I want my verb suffixes to be. I want realis, witness, to be with an eth. I want realis, let's see, let me look at my sounds. Realis non-witness to be with an R, and then irrealis to be with a K. I think K. Also, I did momentarily think about using a C here instead of a K, but I think I'm going to stick with K. Yeah, okay. So so if I had a verb like, let's say, under needs to end with an E or an A. What if under was let's do toma for under. Toma, then it would be like O goes to O, or sorry, not O, ow. It would be taumad if I saw it happen. Taumad if it were I heard about it happening, or I'm inferring that it happens. And it'll be taumak if I'm saying it might happen or I want it to happen. So those would be like how that would work. I went from toma to tauma in all of those because it's a verb. So I'm doing the vowel breaking. I guess I should say that here in the morphology. Verb, vowel breaking. E to A. O to ao. E to ye. A to wa. There we go. Verb vowel breaking. And then we can conjugate for mood evidentiality there. M/E. Cool. Okay. And I think maybe I just do a reverse étoffé. I literally take A from farsi. I think I'm going to do that. It's already in my brain as A, so why not just make it A? And then for and or, I'll do these two. I'll just do the pronouns before next time. And I'm going to say, I always do something with a high vowel or a front vowel with, and so I'm going to do something different. I think I'm going to do, da for and. And I'm going to do, I usually do something with a back or low vowel for or, so I'm going to do something front like C. I'll do C. T-I. C. Da and C. Yeah, so that's and or. And then I'll just do my pronouns before next time, and you'll see the pronouns. So, thank you for being a viewer. Thank you for putting up with all the pauses and corrections and stuff like that. I do not have editing software. It would destroy my computer. It's a miracle that I can even stream with this thing. So I appreciate you sitting through all of the lulls and stuff like that. Thank you. I hope to see you next time, either here on YouTube, if you're watching it on YouTube, or on Twitch live, so you can give your feedback and we can talk about the stuff that we're doing. But yeah, next time it will be finishing up the morphology and the orthography, assigning words to these things so we can translate all of our example sentences and maybe make more example sentences. And then we'll just revise everything and I'll make it look nice and pretty. I think I'm going to use different paper that I'm going to put into my notebook to make it look all nice and organized and stuff. So that is the plan for next time. Thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of whatever time zone you're in. Thank you, and farewell.